All right, good morning. Economics class. Towers High School senior class, economics class. This is Mr. Black. And I'm going to make a short video for you guys to watch on your own about economics. What is economics? You know, that's the question I'm asking you, right? But as we look at this course and see what it's all about, you'll learn about what economics is all about. I've got in front of me here the standards. Let's see, where's the camera? The standards for the 5 units that is this economics class. So I want to go over those, especially this first unit. Unit 1 is fundamentals, basic concepts, vocabulary, ideas, and big picture kind of things about economics. What is economics? Well, we think about the economy, right? Economies, trains and planes, and trade and global trade, you know, and transportation and communications. You've got computers, you've got businesses, retail and wholesale businesses. You've got cars, and you've got computers, and you've got guitars. People sell and people buy, and people selling stuff. You know, goods and services. In economics, we talk about goods are things, tangible things that we buy, like paper and books and pictures and whatever, you know, things we buy in the store, sheets, pillowcases, food, you know, gas. Those are all goods, right? Because they're kind of solid and real. They're good things. I mean, some of the things that are goods aren't good things, you know, like drugs and alcohol and things like that. But those are called goods, as opposed to services, right? Services, goods and services. Services are going to the dentist, going to the doctor, getting your car fixed, you know, getting your eyes examined, getting some glasses. These are services. Medical services, health services, you know, going to an accountant, going to a chiropractor, going to a doctor. Anyone who has a sort of special skill like that is in the service industry. Teachers are in the service industry. So we are serving you. You are our customer, and we hope you have a good experience with our business, which is education, right? So this is economics. It's all goods and services. People, obviously it involves people, buying and selling, exchanging, making deals, trying to make a profit, right? We live in what we call a capitalistic economic system, right? Capitalistic as opposed to socialism or even communism. Those are political systems as well as economic systems. Most of the world is capitalistic, means everybody's got to kind of fend for themselves, make money, get a job. The government's not going to too much support us. They enforce the laws. They make laws that hopefully treat everybody fairly. But you know, if you have ambition, if you're an entrepreneur, you can start a business. You can make a lot of money. You can fail. You have that freedom, economic freedom to do and sort of fend for yourself. Now, there's, if you read the news today, there's different schools of thought about how much the government should provide. What are public goods like roads and schools and health care? Should that be a public good? Wi-Fi connectivity, should that be a public good? You know, essential things that the government provides. Think about Defense Department, right? And Social Security, things that help people that really need help. The government can be there to help them. So the government is, we're not totally capitalistic. We have a lot of elements that are socialistic, right? And communism is more like an authoritarian government, you know, where there's one party that kind of runs the whole show, and that's sort of China and Soviet Union right now. And in the United States, we at least have some dialogue, some discussion and controversy, and hopefully democratic process brings out the greater good for everybody. And we're going through a lot of changes about that now. There's been a lot in the news about wealth inequality and power inequality that has systematically disenfranchised black and brown people and women. And so things are changing. You know, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are challenging President Trump in terms of that whole philosophy, right? So things are sort of in a bit of a transition, maybe. So anyway, so politics, government is a big part of the economy, of course, right? So some of your families got bailout checks, $1,200 to help us through the pandemic, and that may be more on the way. Different support for small businesses and big businesses. So the government tries to keep the economy going, because the economy is going good, people are happy, people have jobs, people make money, people can spend money, and it kind of perpetuates a sort of a cycle of prosperity and growth, right? The government wants our economy to grow. We talk about our gross domestic product, GDP, right? How big is our economy? Our economy is, U.S. economy is one of the biggest in the world. It's over $20 trillion every year. What is produced, about 21, 2, 3, something trillion dollars worth of goods and services, right? Other countries, have trillion-dollar large economies too, and it's a global economy, so there's a lot of interaction there. But this is kind of what we're going to get into with in this economics class. So I just wanted to kind of introduce you to it. The economy is everything, Politicians want the economy to be good so they can get reelected, right? If people are happy with their jobs, they feel like there's growing prosperity, then they are happy and they reelect public officials. But in any case, the economy is very important to that. And in the United States, again, we say we sort of have a capitalistic system. That gives us a lot of freedom. A democratic capitalistic system gives you a lot of freedom. You can start your own business. You can let that go. Sorry for the phone call. But you can start your business, right? You can gather the resources, take the risk, be an entrepreneur, right? And create something, It may work, it may be great, and you can hire a bunch of people and start a business, or you may struggle and lose everything you put into it. So this is the freedom that we have to create new things. The United States is probably one of the most creative countries in the world because we have that freedom, right? Innovation comes. Apple computers, Google, and Microsoft, and all these amazing, huge, Amazon, they all started in the United States, right? Because there's that sort of creative entrepreneurial spirit that is lively in our culture, right? Individual starting out and doing something on their own, and maybe in the garage, and then it becomes, an Apple computer. So anyway, this is our capitalistic system, and we're going to talk a little about the free market. We talk about free market. It's probably a better term than capitalism. We have free market. We want free trade between each other, between the states, and between the United States and other countries. We don't want a lot of barriers to trade. We want, that's a very efficient system to have it like that. The winners win and the losers lose, and, those who are most competent and competitive, say, or most efficient in their production and fulfilling the needs of the people, they will succeed, right? And so that's growth, that's innovation, and that's a good thing. So, so the economy is everything, right? Everything has to do with the economy. This class has 5 units. 5 units. First one is fundamentals, and we're going to kind of get into these things about different economic systems, the role of the government, what it means to start a business. What do you need to start a business, right? If you're starting a business, you need some land or some sort of building, place to do it. You need some workers, maybe you're the one worker, but at least you have some workers. You need some desks and whatever tools and equipment you need to start your business. Maybe I need a truck. Maybe you need, a computer. Maybe you need a graphic design computer. Whatever, if you're a writer, you need a pen and a pencil. If you're a musician, you need some instruments, right? So anyway, different sort of capital goods that you need to start your business, and you have to have that entrepreneurial spirit. So these are the kind of what we call the factor of production. Factors of production are what any business is going to need to start. And actually, they're different for each business. So we're going to talk about that, and then we get into a section. The second section is micro. Micro meaning small economics. Microeconomics deals with individual businesses and the decisions they have to make, right? So you start a business, okay? Supply and demand. Well, you make a product. Obviously, you need some things to create a product, those things, those factors of production. You have a product. What are you going to price it at, you know? How are you going to distinguish it from other products? Are you going to be a small mom and pop business, or are you going to be a big corporation? What form is your business going to take, right? Supply and demand. What factors will increase demand for your product? What factors will increase the supply? And if the supply goes up, what happens to the price, right? If the demand goes up, what happens to the price? If demand goes up, price goes up, right? So this is microeconomics. Decisions that a business owner, a micro unit of the economy, needs to make in their business activities. Microeconomics looks at those factors, right? Different kinds of businesses, different types of markets, right? You're a monopoly, or you're just one of many, strawberry growers in Southern California. You got a lot of competition. You can't make much money, but you have to do a lot and all that. So different types of business, different types, like a corporation, a partnership. Maybe you go in with another person. Maybe you all by yourself. So different kinds of businesses. We're going to talk about that, and supply and demand. That's a big part of microeconomics. Next part is macroeconomics. Macro meaning big, right? Macroeconomics looks at the economy, the global economy, really, national and global economy as a whole. We talk about gross domestic product. What is the productivity of our nation? What is the productivity of Italy? What is the productivity of Egypt? Every country has a different productivity, a level of productivity. As I mentioned, our GDP is like $20 trillion. So we look at GDP, we look at broad statistics like unemployment. What's the unemployment rate, right? A lot of people have lost their jobs during the pandemic, so the employment rate went up, right? It used to be like 3.5%. We were very low. We were like super fully employed, but now it's probably up to like 10% because people have been sent home due to the situation. So unemployment, employment, labor force. What is a labor force? What about inflation? Are prices going up or are prices going down? Inflation, price changes, deflation, prices going down. If the economy's really slowing down, you'd think prices would go down, right? If the economy's like chugging along and everybody's got lots of money and everybody's feeling good, prices are going to go up. That's inflation or deflation. We talk about the consumer price index. We'll talk about that, and it's kind of an index that measures what prices are doing over a period of time. Lately, prices have been very low. There hasn't been a lot of inflation. Some countries have crazy inflation, and their currency isn't worth anything because inflation is just off the charts, and there's a reason for that, and we'll talk about that. And macroeconomics. Macroeconomics also looks at something called the Federal Reserve Bank. The central bank of the United States is known as the Federal Reserve Bank. We have a branch here in Atlanta, in Midtown of Atlanta, and they monitor and oversee and support and sort of manipulate the economy and through the banking system and the flows of money in and out of the economy. This is a very interesting history and role that the Federal Reserve Bank plays in the U.S. Economy. You may have remember from U.S. history, Alexander Hamilton was all about having the central bank, and Jefferson was like, no, we don't want a bank because it's just a bunch of rich bankers that are going to take advantage of the situation. But now we do have a central bank, and they're trying to maintain full employment and low inflation, right? If they can do those two things, the economy will grow and everybody will be happy. And they've played a huge role during the pandemic of providing funds for banks and businesses so that they can operate. So really controlling the money supply. This is what the Federal Reserve Bank does. And this is in Washington. We have a branch here in Atlanta. Each region has their own Federal Reserve Bank, and it's a sort of a branch of the government. It's separate from the government, but it is part of it still. And we'll talk about that. But the government, again, has a monetary policy, which is executed through the Federal Reserve Bank. It also has a fiscal policy, which is all about spending, how much the government spends, and how much the government taxes. Fiscal policy and monetary policy. Monetary policy is the Fed. Fiscal policy is the spending and taxing capacities of the U.S. government. So it's the Congress, the president making decisions about taxes. If they want to help people out, they're going to lower taxes, right? If they want to help the economy out, the government's going to spend more money, right? Kind of stir things up. If the economy's going too fast, they might raise taxes and lower spending, though that's harder for them to do as politicians. So that's macroeconomics. The fourth section that we have is international finance. International finance has to do with trade between countries, global trade, which we know is huge these days. The world is a very small place due to communications and transportation capacities that we have. Each country has the shipping and air freight and all that. So a lot of goods come from country to country. Look at in your kitchen or in your closet, you'll see a lot of products from Asia or Europe or South America or Africa, different places that our clothing and our food and all our goods mostly are traded between countries. And this is international finance. Obviously, in the United States, we have dollars. In Europe, they have the euro, right? So how does that work? If we're buying something from Europe, someone in the United States, well, do you have to change your dollars into euros to pay them, or they will take dollars? And is it something called the exchange rate, the foreign exchange? Foreign exchange is a huge component of the economy. This is part of international economics. Due to this trade, due to this dynamic economy, global economy, there has to be some way to convert one currency into another currency, right? So you might have some familiarity with that. If you've traveled to one country from the United States, you had to convert your dollars into wherever you're going, the currency they use. Each country has their own currency, right? So this is international economics. We also look at trade barriers. Trade barriers are things that countries put up to protect their industries, their domestic industries, their homegrown industries. So there may be tariffs or barriers. You've heard, if you've listened to the news, Trump has raised a lot of barriers on imports from China and different countries because they think they have an unfair advantage, or they're kind of displacing U.S. companies that can do it. And so there are all these barriers, limiting the number, having quotas like that. So various trade barriers, we'll talk about that in international finance. How the whole reason why do we trade in the first place? Why do we trade with other countries? And different associations or alliances between countries that try to facilitate free trade, like the European Union, right? NAFTA, if you've heard of NAFTA, was Canada, Mexico, and U.S. had a free trade agreement. So there's a lot of debate about protectionism and free trade. Some people, it's very controversial, really, or debatable, and lots of different thinking on both sides. It benefits both sides, but there's a trade-off. You have to start protecting things. Things are going to get more expensive for your consumers because you raise the price of everything, trying to prevent these foreign goods from coming into our country. Last section, and we'll just finish it up here, is personal finance. Personal finance is probably the most practical for you as an individual part of this class, and we'll probably sprinkle some of this 5th unit of personal finance within the other units because it is so valuable. Talk about things like budgeting, how important it is to budget and what that means, savings, how savings can grow exponentially over time. We have something called simple interest and compound interest, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about investments, different types of investments, and the risks that are involved with them, right? Some investments are very safe. There's not a lot of risk, but they don't pay as much. Something that has more risk is going to have the potential, right, to make more money. That's why it's risky, and you're taking a chance, and you may or may not win. This is, the way it works. So personal finance, we'll talk about investing. We'll talk about savings and spending. We'll talk about banks and other financial institutions. Credit, getting loans, how you get a loan, how you get good credit, how you build your credit. You guys are just starting out, but eventually you're going to have checking accounts and credit cards and loans. You might get a car loan. You're going to have to pay utility bills. You're going to start building up a record of your capacity to pay your bills, right? And the better you do that, the better credit you have, the lower interest rate you'll get if you decide to try to buy a house or a car or business loan. So it's developing personal wealth and personal goodwill, I guess, that there's a record for that. So that's mattered in your credit score and your credit report, and we'll talk all about that. We'll talk about taxes and different types of taxes and the role of taxes in the economy. You pay taxes if you work. Businesses pay taxes. We pay taxes when we buy things in the grocery store, right? There's taxes to that. Property taxes, different kinds of taxes. We all pay taxes, and the government, that's the way the government is funded, right? So we'll talk about taxation and different types of taxation and roles of taxation. We'll talk about using credit, and we'll talk also about insurance, different types of insurance that you need, health insurance, life insurance, car insurance, if you own a house insurance, liability insurance. If you have a business, you don't want to be sued, so you have liability, keeps you protected like that. So that's the 5 units, and then I don't think there's going to be an EOC, end of course test for economics this year. The state of Georgia has passed some legislation that said with social studies there used to be 2. It was U.S. history and economics, and they passed a law recently that said it's only going to be 1, right? And I don't think it's going to be economics. I think it's probably going to be keep the EOC on American history, because that's stuff you got to know. But there will be tests along the way. We're going to try to chunk it into smaller units so you can kind of digest it. And with the pandemic, everything's kind of up for grabs and kind of new and different, and discovering kind of how this is going to work. But I want to, this was just more to look at the syllabus, the standards that we'll be going over. We'll really come back to these standards quite a lot, so I will post these on Verge, and you will have them. Look at the syllabus, read the syllabus, there's a virtual access, internet access platforms, some instructions on that in Verge. Also under this, under resources, Unit 1 folder, fundamentals. And so the syllabus, if you want to look at the weekly lesson plan, that kind of gets us looking in the right direction, but that may change just due to all the sort of hiccups along the way of getting started. So anyway, this is where we're headed, and I look forward to working with you all. And if you have any questions or comments or want to reach out to me, Verge is probably, send me a message on Verge, and we can sort of create a dialogue there. You know my email address is on the syllabus, so you can do that too. And I'm here for you guys. I'm here to help you guys. We're going to learn a little economics. We're going to get through it and support each other. So all the best to you, and we'll talk this week and next week and the next 18 weeks together. All right.